welcome to today's session. Today, I would like us to critically analyze the ICT O-level UNEB paper of last year, 2024. We critically look at those scenarios and how they were supposed to be responded to, the expected responses as per the draft UNEB marking guides. We also look at what we call the report on candidates' work, so that this year we continue to nurture the candidates and they do well. Here we begin with paper 1. So paper 1, the paper took 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it required candidates to do at least 3 items. That is, 1 item compulsory in section A, and then in section B to do 1 item from each part. In total, 3 items. When you look at item 1, that is in section A, this item was compulsory, and it was saying that the head teacher of BBR Secondary School is planning to organize an assembly to sensitize 200 new students about the school rules and regulations. The students will be required to assemble in the main hall. The head teacher would like to have a visual presentation of his speech and also give out a copy of the rules and regulations to each student. The head teacher's secretary, who is your brother, has been asked to prepare whatever the head teacher will need to have a successful assembly, but has no idea of the appropriate ICTs that can be used and how they are used. Your brother has approached you for help. Task: explain to your brother the ICTs he can use and how to use them to ensure that the head teacher has a successful assembly. Now, how did the candidates respond to this? I would like us first to look at the report of last year. So this is the Uganda National Examination Board report on work of candidates. Uganda Certificate of Education 2024. Now I would like us to see in ICT paper 1, where was the weakness of the candidates and what is the advice to teachers. So ICT paper 1 on page 100. Here you see we are saying that the paper comprised of 2 sections, A and B, and 1 compulsory scenario item. Section B had 2 parts, 1 and 2, with each part having 2 scenario items, of which a candidate answers only 1 item from each paper. Now this is the overall performance. The overall performance of candidates of UCE 2024 was good. The quality of work presented by the candidates was also good. The paper was of an appropriate level of difficulty. The time of 2 hours 15 minutes allocated for the paper was adequate. Now here is the question analysis. Well done questions was item 1. Poorly done questions, item 4 and 5. Most attempted questions, item 1. Least attempted question was item 2. Now, let's look at section A. Section A, item 1. This item required the task taker or the candidate to describe ICTs the head teacher needed to use and how to use them to ensure that the head teacher delivers a successful assembly. So, popularity. The item was compulsory, very popular, and attempted well. But where was the weakness of the candidates? Some candidates mistook addressing an assembly for assembling a computer. Some candidates gave any ICT tool they would think about whether it would solve the issue in the scenario or not. More to that, some candidates unpacked ICT tools, giving even ICT support electronic devices and tools like USB and VGA cables, extension cables, sockets, TV stands, etc. Some candidates explained lab rules and general school regulations. Some candidates failed to develop formal writing or presentation. So, here I would like us to see what were the expected responses to this item 1. So when you look at the final guide for last year, when you look at the final guide of last year, or what I can call the draft score guide that was used in 2024 for ICT, it started like this. We had some general inner codes like N-A, which could be used when a candidate identified a tool that is not applicable, a response that is not applicable, or an irrelevant response. Then RFT, a repeated response, then total for totals. Now, item 1, what were some of the expected responses? First of all, before we go to expected responses, there were what we call the codes and their descriptors. Item 1 is from the element of construct 1, which says that appreciates and manages the computer system. So item 1, a candidate was required to identify and describe sufficient at least 5 or more tools, and the candidate would get 6 scores. Then if they are between 3 to 4, would get 5. If the candidate identifies and describes 1 to 2 of the sufficient ICT tools, would get 1. Or if the candidate only identifies ICT tools, or if the candidate identifies and describes other ICT tools, would still get 1. Then the format of the presentation. So the format of the presentation, it includes appropriate formal presentation, where you have a focused introduction, a recommendation or a judgment, logically flowing document, or what you can call coherence in the workflow, or relevant conclusion. For example, a letter, an essay, a report, or a table, etc. So from this, we can now look at some of the expected responses for item 1. Now, here we are saying identifies and describes 5 or more than relevant and sufficient ICT tools. So the sufficient ICT tools that were considered include computer, tablet, laptop, or smartphone. These are for data processing. Projector, stroke smartboard, stroke screen, stroke interactive whiteboards for displaying the teacher's speech on a bigger screen. Another tool, printer, embosser, braille printer. These are for producing copies of the school rules and regulations. Public address system, which includes a speaker for output, the teacher's speech during assembly, and a microphone to capture the teacher's speech into a computer, a mixer, amplifier, etc. That is what is under a public address system. The fifth tool, a presentation software. This one is to organize the head teacher's slides for presentation, or a word processor for creating a document for the school rules and regulations. So those were the 5 sufficient tools. Other tools include storage media, e.g. flash disk, for transferring the head teacher's presentation, for either printing or displaying for the audience, a photocopier for duplicating the head teacher's document, a scanner or a scanning app to capture hard copies of the head teacher's document into soft copy, internet for sharing the information, then lastly, digital camera for capturing invests in the school. So now, these were the expected responses for item 1. So a candidate mentioning 5 sufficient tools would get 6 scores. Now from there, if a candidate identified and described 3 to 4 tools, would get 5 scores. Then 1 to 2 tools identified and described, that is at least 1 score. Or only identifying the tools, that is 1 score. Or identifies and describes tools outside what is sufficient, would get 1 score. Then from there, we look at the format of the presentation for element of construct 1. So here, we would consider introduction or a relevant conclusion, and then the arrangement of the work, that is A, for coherent arrangement of the work, and this was given 3 scores. Now when you look at the score grid, description of the ICT tool, you look at the ICT tools identified and the description. But now here, you would find that there is an NB here. D determines the weight. If a candidate has 6 tools identified and 3 described, his or her weight is 1. So meaning that the description is very key. So going forward, this was the score grid, description of the ICT tool, then the format of the presentation, which includes intro, conclusion, and the arrangement of the work. And the total was 9 for item 1. Now, I would like us to look at section B, part 1. So when you look at section B, part 1, where a candidate was supposed to answer 1 item, we look at item 2 here. AB Trading Center has experienced a major increase in population along with an increase in prolonged use of ICTs. Your friend Moses, a counselor, has noticed an overwhelming amount of ICT junk dumped carelessly and an increase in internet abuse. He feels this may cause environmental and health issues among the population. Moses would therefore like the people to be sensitized but lacks information on how to manage ICT junk, the internet abuse, and health-related issues that may arise due to prolonged use of ICTs. He has approached you for help. Task: provide the information Moses can use to sensitize the population. So here, we begin with the report. What did the candidate present? Now here is item 2. We are saying item 2 required a 3-dimensional analysis of the causes, consequences, and mitigations for health issues due to prolonged use of ICTs and internet abuse related issues, and then demonstration of real hands-on experience in electronic waste management. Popularity of the item. The item was optional and not very popular. Weakness of the candidates. A number of candidates applied a 1-dimensional analysis. Some candidates mistook ICT junk for a malware or virus. They were not taught or just did not attend lessons, general lack of experiences in attempting scenario or competence-based test items. Candidates seemed to be knowing the problem, causes, and mitigation, but majority do not understand them. For instance, a candidate mentions land refill but describes something else. So here, I want us to look at the expected responses for item 2, for example. Now, with item 2 here, the key areas in item 2, we are looking at managing e-waste, managing internet abuse, managing health-related issues, then NB, score boss, and consider one. So in case we had managing internet abuse and managing health issues, and the candidate has brought all of them would be scored, and then one is considered. Now here is we first look at the descriptors for item 2. So item 2 taken from the element of construct 2. Here they are the codes and then the descriptors. So EC, this is explanation of the cause or the consequences for element of construct 2. The candidate describes 4 or more causes and mitigations from health issues and internet abuse. Would get 6. If describes 4 or more, the scores are 6. If the candidate identifies only causes or mitigations from either health or internet abuse, would get 1 score. Or the candidate describes 1 to 3 causes and mitigation from health issues and internet abuse, would take 1 score. More to that, there is provides the management measure. A candidate identifies 4 measures, 4 stakeholders, and 4 roles, and at least 1 consequence of e-waste, and then and 1 consequence in e-waste, and generally the management would get 6. If the candidate identifies 3 measures, 3 stakeholders, and 3 roles in e-waste management, qualifies for 5. If the candidate identifies 1 to 2 measures, stakeholders, and roles in e-waste, gets 4. If the candidate only identifies measures, stock stakeholders, stock roles in e-waste management, would get 1. And then finally, format of the presentation. With format of the presentation, where we are looking at a focused introduction, recommendation or judgment, logically flowing document, or relevant conclusion. So the document, a formal presentation, for example, a letter, an essay, a report, a table. This one was given 4 scores, and in total 16. Let's now look at some of the expected responses for item 2. So here are some of the expected responses. When it comes to health, a candidate was expected to mention a health issue, for example, back pain, brings the causes, the consequences, or the cause. So here we are looking at the cause of the back pain, like poor sitting posture, prolonged ICT use, substandard furniture. Immediately, the mitigation measure or the prevention measure, which we are calling MT, use of ergonomic furniture, should sit upright, always have frequent breaks. How about headache? Prolonged use, too much light, noise due to vibrations of some ICT tools, e.g. earphones or headsets. Mitigation, having breaks, regulate the light by using screen filters, regulate the sound in ears by reducing the volume of the headsets. Another health issue, repetitive strain injury caused by prolonged use, using non-ergonomic keyboards, mitigation, having breaks. Eye strains, too much light from display, poor lighting, flickering of monitors. Measure use of anti-glare screens, reduce on the light, uses appropriate glasses. Another health issue, neck pain, caused by poor monitor positioning. Then a measure parallel positioning of the monitor. Another health issue, wrist pains, use of non-ergonomic keyboards. Watch the measure, use of ergonomic keyboards. Another health issue, fatigue due to prolonged ICT use, measure having breaks. Another health issue, stress or depression caused by prolonged ICT use, so measure having breaks. Another health issue, skin cancer due to electromagnetic radiations from monitors. Measure adopt green computing practices like use of monitors that do not produce a lot of radiations. Also, sit a reasonable distance from the monitors. Another health issue, deep vein thrombosis, what we can call blood clots in veins. This is caused by immobility, not moving for a long time. Measure doing exercises. Another health issue, obesity, caused by lack of regular breaks. So measure having exercises. Another health issue, muscle twitching, or what you can call involuntary contraction of muscles caused by prolonged sitting, and the measure is to have exercises. Another one we can talk about dizziness. This is caused by prolonged use, device failure, and we can solve this by taking regular water. Then we had internet abuse. The responses here, we wanted the consequences of internet abuse. One of the consequences is immorality or immoral decay due to watching porn. Mitigation measure, use of network filters or firewalls, sensitize or educate about best practices. We can also have internet censorship. Another consequence is loss of human dignity due to using the internet to watch and circulate controversial content. Mitigation measure, set working laws against pornography. Another consequence, data loss due to hacking. Measure, set ethical practices, installing updated antiviruses, visit only trusted sites. Another consequence, risk of suicide due to cyberbullying and stalking. Mitigation measure, sensitization. Another consequence, social isolation due to addiction. We can mitigate this through sensitization. Another consequence, cyber wars as a result of using internet as a tool for attacking others. The mitigation measure is through sensitization and also through prosecution. Another consequence, loss of man hours, stroke productive time due to addiction and irresponsible surfing. Mitigation measure, we can have parental controls. Another consequence, damaged relationships. The mitigation measure is take breaks from the internet. Another consequence, loss of money. Staying online means cash. So what is the mitigation measure? Budget for internet activities. So generally, those were the internet consequences and the mitigation measure. Then from there, another dimension, we were supposed to look at management of e-waste. And we have said Under providing the mitigation measure, a candidate identifies more than sufficient number of measures, stakeholders, and their roles. At least 4 measures, 4 stakeholders, and 4 roles, plus at least 1 consequence would get 6 scores. Below that gets 5 if there are 3 measures, 3 stakeholders, and 3 roles. Now, here are the responses to e-waste management. A candidate was supposed to bring an approach to e-waste management or a measure given code M, then a stakeholder given code SH, and a role given a code R. A management measure like recycling, mention a stakeholder like the management according to the task that was given to us here. And then from there, another stakeholder can be recycling agencies. Their role is to invite, the management invites the recycling agencies to collect e-waste for recycling. Another approach measure was donation. So with donation, who are the stakeholders? The management can be a stakeholder, the users are the stakeholders. The role is to give out unwanted ICT tools to institutions that need them. Another measure in managing e-waste is controlled burning. So with controlled burning, the stakeholders are users, lenders, management, environmental agencies like NEMA. Their role is to use proper incinerators to avoid pollution of the environment. Another measure is reuse or refill. The stakeholder, we have management and users. Their role is to refill in order to protect the environment, e.g. toner cartridges. Another e-waste management measure, we have land refill or landfill. The stakeholders are users, leaders, management, environmental agencies like NEMA. Their role is gazetting a specialized area where ICT junk is dumped. Another role can be sorting the non-decomposing and dumping the decomposing in the pit. That is the role here. Then, another managing measure, we can have take-back program. Who are the stakeholders? The users, manufacturers, management, importers. The role of these, some companies have a policy of allowing customers to take back in exchange of new ones. Another approach to managing e-waste, we have acid bath. The stakeholders, management, government. The role, e-waste materials are put in acid which fastens their decomposition. Then another approach, refuse. Stakeholder, government, management, users. Some governments or countries or organizations have a policy of refusing old electronics. Sell for cash. Users, management are the stakeholders. Their role is to advertise. Their role is to sort. Their role is to formulate policies. Another management approach on e-waste, we can talk about virtualization, and stakeholders are users, management. And then, what is the role? Software tools can replace physical electronic components. So here, we have listed the management measure or the approach to e-waste management, and then the stakeholders and their roles. So candidates are supposed at least to mention a management measure, the stakeholders, and their roles. Now, from there, we look at the format of the presentation for element of construct 2. So appropriate format of a presentation, including relevant introduction, logically flowing document, and relevant conclusion, a judgment, a recommendation, and then arrangement of the work. So here a candidate would get 4 scores for the format of the presentation. So here is the score grid, explanation of the causes or the consequences. We count the consequences and their mitigation measures, the causes and their mitigation measures, then provides the mitigation measure for e-waste where we have measures, stakeholders, and their roles. Then the format of the presentation for element of construct 2, total 16. Next, I would like us to look at item 3. Your aunt, Amina, has worked for a company for over 15 years, where her main responsibility is to type company documents. Over time, the work at the company has increased, and so she has to use the computer for longer hours to produce the required documents. As a result, Amina has started experiencing many health-related issues, some of which are persistent, mild headache, and backache. Of recent, she has been given the responsibilities of managing the old unused ICTs which have congested her office, and also ensuring the safety of the new ICTs she uses to improve the documents. Amina has challenges of how to deal with health-related issues and handle the recently given responsibilities. She has come to you for help. Task: provide your aunt with solutions to her challenges. Now, this is what the report came up with. Item 3. It required also a 3-dimensional analysis of the causes, consequences, and mitigation for health issues due to prolonged use of ICTs. It also needed demonstration of real hands-on experiences in e-waste management and ensuring safety of the ICTs. Popularity. The item was optional and very popular. That is it. So since we have looked at item 2, where we are looking at a 3-dimensional analysis of the causes, consequences, and mitigation health issues due to prolonged ICT use, and then management of e-waste, then ensuring that the ICTs are safe, it means that the responses were almost similar to item 2. Now, here are the expected responses for item 3. Key areas: e-waste management, safety or security of the new ICT devices, and then health-related issues. So, here, under EC explanation of the causes or consequences, here, if the candidate describes 4 or more causes and mitigations from either health or safety, stock security of the ICTs, would get 6 scores. And if a candidate only identifies causes or mitigations from either health or safety, stock security of the ICTs, would get 1, or describes 1 to 3 causes and mitigations from either health or safety, stock security of the new ICTs, would get 1. So, these are the expected responses on health. A candidate mentions back pain, goes ahead to bring the causes, not the consequences. Poor sitting posture due to prolonged ICT use or substandard furniture, then the mitigation measure, use of ergonomic furniture. The candidate should sit upright, always have frequent breaks. So here the responses are the same as the way we have responded to item 2 when it comes to the health issues. So I further request colleagues who haven't grabbed this book of ICT Mastery for Uganda's Competence-Based Curriculum, new edition 2025, second edition. With this book, it covers S1 to S4. It has theory and practical. This book has notes, summarized notes from topic 1, Introduction to ICTs. It has summarized notes, Introduction to ICTs. It has notes to all those topics. The book has activities of integrations and their responses. The book has this very UNEB marking guide, well detailed the way it was used. The book has many scenarios and their responses, about 5 sets and their responses. The book is well detailed for the success of our candidates and even those learners who are still in Senior 1, Senior 2, Senior 3. So the book is here for grab. Make sure that at least you get this very book and see how it has been arranged, where we talk about the eWest. Are their stakeholders? Their roles, are they there? So members, grab a copy of ICT Mastery for the success of our candidates, for the success of the runners in Senior 3, Senior 2, Senior 1. ICT Mastery is the book that we need. Now, let's proceed. Now, after mentioning the health issue, what causes it, and the mitigation measure, we would look at the part of safety responses. So here we would mention a consequence, for example, dusty environment. The mitigation, covering after use with waterproof dust covers. Also, use of woolen carpets to trap the dust. Another consequence, virus, by installing or running updated antiviruses. Another consequence on the safety of the ICTs, absence of burglar proofing. Here we can consider having burglar proof of the rooms, installing alarm systems and smoke detectors. Then suspectable network or weak network. This can be solved by installing firewalls. Absence of physical security measure, employ a security guard. Another consequence, we have power fluctuation or unstable power. This can be solved by installing electric power stabilizers or regulators. Poor weak ethics. This is to educate or train the users. Lack of rules and regulations, set and display the rules. Another consequence, poor furnishing of the room. This is through use of standard furniture or ergonomic furniture. Another safety we can look at. Another consequence here, poor aeration of computers, of the computer room or temperatures. This can be through use of AC or appropriate vents. How about ignorance? Let's educate or sensitize user departments. Then natural calamities like lightning, install lightning arresters. Fire outbreak, install fire alarms and gaseous fire extinguishers. Then effects of rodents and insects, spray the room and keep the place clean. How about lightning? Use lightning arresters. How about the effect of water? use of waterproof covers plus other water-related policies. So from there, we are supposed to handle e-waste. The same like the way we did on item 2. You mention an approach or a measure, the stakeholders, and the role of the stakeholder. This is how item 2 and item 3 were supposed to be handled. So from there, I would like to walk you through item 4, which is from section B, part 2. QRSB is a government agency responsible for processing birth and death certificates and maintaining national identification databases. Your sister wanted to register her child with QRSB. On reaching QRSB offices, she was informed that the birth registration form is obtained from the agency's website, filled manually, and resubmitted through the same website. Unfortunately, your sister has no computer knowledge to carry out the registration and has approached you for help. Task: provide step-by-step guidelines she should follow to successfully register the child. Now, when we look at the report here, item 4 required candidates to provide step-by-step guidelines for having the registration process completed. That is, how to download a birth registration form from the website of the registration agency, print it, fill the form manually, and submit it to the agency's website again. Popularity: it was not a popular item. Weaknesses of the candidates: some candidates failed to relate a number of stages with the relevant ICT tool. Some candidates reproduced web authoring software notes like Expression Web and WordPress notes. Some candidates were giving advantages and disadvantages of websites. Some candidates gave HTML codes of website development. Some candidates simply described the process of getting NIRA birth certificate and description of birth certificate details or fields. So here was the weakness of the candidates. Now, let's look at the expected responses. So now, before we go to expected responses, we first look at the codes and their descriptors. Element of construct 3 is the one that forms part 2 of section B, accesses, stores, and shares information using ICTs. So with this, we have a code DP, description of the procedure. In here, a candidate describes all the necessary procedures and the tools needed. Then the candidate gets 5 scores. If the candidate describes 5 and above procedures and tools, but not all, gets 4. If the candidate describes 1 to 4 procedures and tools, gets 3. If the candidate only outlines the ICT tools, or if the candidate only outlines the steps. Then there is also logical flow FL, where we are looking at the perfect logical flow, and the candidate would get 4. If the logical flow is partial, would get 3. And then finally, with the conclusion we are looking at a focused introduction or a relevant conclusion, a judgment or a recommendation under the format of the presentation. So from here, let's see how we are supposed to handle item 4 and item 5. So here are the expected responses. We have a procedure or steps, and these are given code P, and the tools code T. Procedure 1, connecting to the internet by use of internet-enabled computer, a smartphone, a Wi-Fi, data, MiFi, a router, or a modem. Step 2, open the browser. Use Google Chrome, Microsoft Expression Edge, or Microsoft Explorer, etc. Step 3, accessing the website or locate the registration form. This is through use of a search engine, e.g. Google, Yahoo, etc. Step number 4, procedure number 4, download the form, and now use a storage media, e.g. a hard disk, a flash, etc. Even you can use a downloading software. You can also click the download button. So those are the tools that are needed there and well described. Step number 5, print or even give procedures the hard copy, produce the hard copy and fill it manually. Which tools? Printer, multifunctional peripheral device. Number 6, produce or convert the hard copy into soft copy by use of tools like a scanner, a scanning app, a PDF app, camera, etc. Then number 7, attach, stock, upload the document. Tools there, a storage media, use of the upload button and the attach button. Lastly, submit and confirm the upload. Which tools? The submit button, the send tool, or generally navigating through the website. So here, these are some of the tools that we expected when a candidate is describing the procedure. Then from there, we look at the logical flow. If it is very perfect, then the candidate gets 4. Partial, 3. Then a conclusion where there is a recommendation, a judgment, can be at the start or at the end that matches with the scenario, gets 3. So here was the score grid where we are looking at the candidate describing the procedure. We look at how many tools, the procedures, the logical flow, then the conclusion, taking care of the arrangement or the coherent arrangement of the document. Item 5. With item 5, it said, 2 sisters and 3 brothers are planning a family function. The 2 sisters are abroad, while the 3 brothers are staying in Uganda. The sisters have called their brothers, informing them that they have created an email address for one of the brothers and use it to send them a draft budget in form of a Word document. They have requested the brothers to modify it and send it back to them. The sisters have also communicated to their brothers all the necessary information needed to use the email. However, none of the brothers has knowledge of what to do. You have been approached by one of the brothers who is your friend for help. Task: give step-by-step guidelines of what your friend should do. Now, let's first look at the report. With item 5, we are saying it required candidates to provide step-by-step guidelines for accessing an email, downloading attached document, editing the document, attaching the document, and sending it back for further action. Popularity: the item was not popular. Weakness of the candidates: most of the candidates gave advantages and disadvantages of internet and emails. Most candidates gave advantages of electronic word processors and their features. Most candidates gave drawings of word processor and email software interfaces. Most candidates gave the process of creating a new email. Most candidates presented content of the budget and others just drew the budget. Most candidates gave requirements for having internet connectivity like data, internet service providers, websites, and web browsers. So here, let's see the expected responses for item 5. So first of all, we needed to look at the descriptors. The descriptors are the same for item 4 and item 5 when we are looking at the element of construct 3. But then item 5 itself, we are looking at the candidate describing the procedure. If the candidate describes all the necessary procedures and tools needed to connect, locate, download, fill, and submit the form. Or if the candidate has described 6 and above procedures and tools, but not all, would get 4. And then if has just described 1 to 5 procedure, gets 3. Or only ICT tools, 3. Or only the steps would get 3. Now, let's look at what we needed, the procedures or the steps and the tools that are needed. Every procedure, put a P. Every tool, put a T. Step 1 or procedure 1, connecting to the internet. Which tools are key there? Internet-enabled computer, a smartphone, Wi-Fi, data, MiFi, router, modem, etc. Step number 2, open a browser. Use a web browser like Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, MS Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, etc. Step number 3, locate the email website using a search engine. So meaning that we need search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, etc. Now, login into the email account. The tool, we need an email app there. Procedure number 5, open the inbox and download the budget. The tool is the email app, the storage media, e.g. hard disk, a flash disk. Number 6, open the downloaded budget to make changes. Tools, candidate would use a word processor, e.g. Microsoft Word, or even the downloaded folder, that is a tool there. Step 7, save the changes. The tool can be a storage media. 8, re-access the email account and compose a new message or reply to the previous message where you downloaded the form. The tool needed was an email app and even a compose button. Step number 9, attach the modified budget. The tools, there is attach button, email app, and the storage media. Step number 10, send email. The tool, the send button, or the email app itself. Then from there, we look at the logical flow of the procedures. If it is perfect, 4 scores. If it is partial, 3. Then conclusion, we look at the judgment, a recommendation, either at the start or at the end, in line with the scenario, and those are 3 scores. So the score grid for item 4 and 5, they are the same, and each took 12 weights. Now, here we have advice to the teachers after this report and how candidates manage to perform. Advice to teachers. Teachers should guide learners in formal writing skills. Teachers should help learners to apply knowledge and skills in real-life situations to solve problems. Teachers should equip learners with appropriate skills for handling scenario-based items. That is, critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, analytical skills, decision-making skills. All learners must be taught and prepared for their end-of-cycle examinations. There are clear signs of some candidates not having been taught in competence-based way over 80% of the basic learners seem not to have been taught. Teachers should deploy the best methods for developing ICT concepts and vocabulary from what is known to unknown for the learners to grasp, master, and demonstrate competencies well. Teaching should focus on solving problems of the society other than providing content. Teachers must focus on provision of an all-round education, i.e., cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. This is all about ICT Paper 1. Now, I would like us also to look at what took place in ICT Paper 2 briefly, practical. So, colleagues, I still encourage you to grab a copy of Mastering Subsidiary ICT for A-Level. This is Learners Book 5, a competence-based theory and practical approach, Senior 5, the aligned A-Level curriculum. This book has its teacher's guide as well. So grab a copy of Mastering Subsidiary ICT for A-Level, Learners Book 5, and Teachers Book 5, the aligned A-Level curriculum, so that we start when it is still early and nurture our learners with at least the right content. This book aligns very well with the syllabus, line per line, page per page, with clear examples and clear step-by-step and content in this very book. Don't miss out ICT Mastery for Uganda's competence-based curriculum. I've said it is a book that covers S1 to Senior 4. It is a guide to theory and practical success. ICT Mastery, this book has been fully revised to make it final. It has summarized notes S1 to S4. It has newly revised standard items for paper 1. There are score sheets for paper 2. There are codes for scoring paper 1. We have complete new responses to all the activities of integrations, newly revised responses to the 5 standard sets of paper 1, newly revised responses to UCE ICT paper 1 2024. So like the way I've been showing out, I've been demonstrating the other marking guide, the whole of it is put in this very book of ICT Mastery. Newly revised scoring guides for the respective items and evaluation grids for the activities of integrations. The book have also included why candidates failed ICT items and solutions to the current candidates and much more. Remember, this is all to ease the teaching and learning of ICT. It is also to help candidates in getting better grades in ICT this very year and beyond. So let's get ICT Mastery for Uganda's competence-based curriculum. The rest will go well. In case some candidates have not grasped website designing, there is a step-by-step guide using Expression Web. Please, this book is also very good step-by-step in designing websites using Expression Web. There is also a practical approach on designing websites using WordPress. WordPress is one of the leading content management systems on planet Earth. So with websites, learners can design catchy and attention-grabbing websites. So, teachers, grab this ICT Resourceful 500 external hard disk. This hard disk is already loaded with content, for example, all latest videos that are having solutions of UNEB papers of 2024 for ICT. Elements of constructs are well explained, approaches to ICT items, videos on WordPress, videos on expression web, videos on word processing, videos on spreadsheets, videos on databases, videos on presentations, videos on programming, videos on desktop publishing. There are a number of videos there. I also include some seminar materials. For example, we have had a number of seminars this year. I've included a number of seminar materials on this ICT resource for hard disk. I have included more ICT mocks for last year, paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. All of them are there for A level. I've included softwares. This is where now much space is taken. Softwares like Expression Web 3 and 4, Dreamweaver, WordPress and XAMPP files, Windows from Windows 7, 8, 10, 11, Office 2023, 2007, 2010, 2016, 19, 2021, and of recent 2024, the latest version. All these offices have activators and others have licenses. Even activators for Windows. There is Microsoft Visual Studio. There is vSpace software for those who are using N computing. This is the right tool. Encarta, Britannica, Adobe Master Collection, plus ICT papers of UNEB and MOOCs with their marking guides are all on this ICT resource for external hard disk. So continue to grab even copies of ICT Elite. The books are still in stock. Please continue to grab these books. Coming next in a few months to come, we are going to have Mastering Subsidiary ICT for A-Level, Senior 6 Learner's Book, and Teacher's Guide. This is work that is being cooked, so anytime it will be served. Yours is to keep following me on my YouTube channel for all the latest updates. Here are my numbers. Call these numbers and get these resources. These textbooks are all available. The resource for external hard disk, get it. I'm also available for those schools who need me to talk to their learners on the best tips on how best they can write their responses, on how best they can achieve better grades in the finals. Call this number 7756-107-62, Kakuru Benard. Now, let's focus on ICT paper 2 of last year. So ICT paper 2 took 2 hours and 30 minutes, and general candidates were supposed to do 2 items, meaning that all items were compulsory. Item 1, your aunt is a director of studies, the DOS of Moro School. Part of her work is to organize results of O-level students according to different categories of performance. She is supposed to use a computer to produce reports that will help the school management to make the following important decisions. Roman 1, all learners whose average score is 70 and above get a special recognition. Roman 2, the best 2 candidates appear on the head teacher's list of fame and each gets Ugandan shillings 10,000. The average scores of the students on the head teacher's list must be represented graphically for easy understanding and use. Your aunt, however, has limited knowledge of using a computer. She has approached you for help and given you the results of the students in the support file, that is support1.xlsx. Task: make a report that your aunt will submit to the school management for decision making. So here, when we come to the report, with the report says with the computer paper 2 introduction, the paper consisted of 2 compulsory items. Item 1 was from manipulation of data using different application programs, while item 2 was from using publishing software to design, produce, and publish publications and websites. The overall performance of candidates of UCE 2024 was good. The quality of work presented by candidates was also good. The paper was of an appropriate level of difficulty. Time allocated was 2 hours and a half allocated for the paper. This time allocated was also adequate. Question analysis. Well done questions, item 1. Poorly done questions, item 2. Most attempted questions, item 1. Least attempted questions, item 2. Then we come to item 1. Item 1 here, when you look at the score sheet. So here was the score sheet for UCE paper 2. Now we had the codes and the competence, then the descriptors. Planning, PN stands for planning. A candidate selects sufficient number of application tools with relevant content, that is word processor, spreadsheets, presentation, and database management system. So a candidate was supposed to use more than 2 or more applications and would get 1 score. If they are less than 2, that is a 0. Now, under manipulation of data, we expected data entry, editing, grammar, spellings, evidence of copy and paste. Then formatting, that is a learner changes text appearance, modifying the paragraph layout, inserts shapes, images, and appropriately formats shapes or images in the text. The learner does basic calculations like sum, product, average, count, max, mean, etc. E, a learner performs advanced calculations like if, sum if, rank, count if, average if, etc. Or a candidate does calculated queries or calculated forms and customized field properties and much more. If the candidate also did import or exporting of data. G, a candidate demonstrates document referencing, i.e. page numbers, footers, headers, titles, subtitles, captions, footnotes, endnotes, labeling of graphs, and presentation, animations, transitions, hyperlinks, and setup slideshow. So all this, that is under manipulation of data. If a candidate has demonstrated skills from A to G, these are more than sufficient and qualified for 5 scores. If the candidate presented skills from A to F, these are sufficient, would qualify for a 4. Now, if a candidate is below A to F, those are less than sufficient and qualifies for a 0. Then we have PD, stands for product. Appropriate product in both forms of output, i.e. Roman 1, list of learners with average 70, above 70. Roman 2, 2 learners on the head teacher's list of fame. And Roman 3, a graph for average score. So here, appropriate product in both forms of output, a candidate qualifies for 3. If the candidate has inappropriate product plus any form of output, would get 1 score. And item 1 was scored out of 9 in total. Now, when you look at the report again, we had some weaknesses in item 1, but then we are saying that this item required candidates to manipulate academic performance data for a sample of students using programs such as Word, spreadsheets, database management system, and presentation to produce three products, documents, reports that can be used for decision making. Candidates' weaknesses. Some candidates could not manipulate data in more than one application. Some candidates could not competently apply the basic functions, for example, sum and average, and advanced functions to manipulate data, for example, ranking, filtering data, etc. Some candidates manually added data using a calculator to determine the totals. Some candidates ended up exhibiting competencies that were not solving the problem in the scenario, hence wasting their time. For example, producing report cards, designing and printing report cards for all the 28 records in the support data file. Now, advice to teachers: expose learners to more scenario-based items. So basically, that was item 1 of 2024. Let's now look at item 2. With item 2, the scenario was saying, technology is essential for development. However, it can have negative effects on the environment if not properly handled, if not properly used. The local council committee of your village has noticed some of the effects and has therefore planned a workshop to educate its community on how to protect the environment while using technology. The committee has decided to organize a workshop at the community hall. Your brother, the secretary for mobilization of the community, has been tasked with creating awareness documents for distribution to the community. However, he lacks ICT knowledge to carry out the task and has contacted you for help. Task: design and produce an offline document that will clearly communicate to members of the community about the workshop. So this was the scenario. Now, when you look at the scoring, the score sheet for item 2, we had the codes, competencies, descriptors and weights, then the scores. Planning selects appropriate application program with relevant content, that is a desktop publishing tool. So a candidate was supposed to use a desktop publishing tool, that is Publisher, and this candidate was given 3 weights for using appropriate application tool, which was Publisher, and inappropriate application would call for 0 weights. Now, under manipulation of data, we had A to I, which include a learner selecting a particular page layout, a learner adding the organizational name. C, adds proper language and appropriate content, e.g. contacts, physical address, etc. D, uses appropriate pictures, logos, and other design tools. E, adds background. F, organizes content on the pages, that is layout and paper balance. G, uses font variations, that is font size, font color. H, contrast. I, page dimensions should match the given publication. So meaning that a candidate who has demonstrated skills A to I, those are more than sufficient and would qualify for 5 weights. A candidate who has demonstrated A to D, these are sufficient, plus any one of E, that is a background, any one of F, any one of G, or any one of H or I, that is sufficient. If the candidate has demonstrated skills from A to D, those are less than sufficient. Or learners who design using any other applications, their score would start from 3. For example, if a candidate used a web authoring software instead of publisher, would start earning from here. Or if a candidate used PowerPoint to design the campaign, would start earning from 3. And if the candidate has not done from A to D, would get 0. Then the product. Appropriate product, that is both forms of output, soft copy and hard copy, i.e. any of a brochure, a flyer, a poster, invitation card, a banner, a calendar, bearing the expected content, a candidate would get 4 weights. Or appropriate product in either soft copy or hard copy form of output, a candidate would get 3. Inappropriate product or no product would take us to no weight. And item 2 was weighted to 12 weights. So now, what do we find in the report for item 2? This item required candidates to design and produce an offline publication, sensitize the members of the community on the sustainable use of technology. Candidates' weaknesses. Some candidates designed an online platform. Other candidates failed to fully observe the basics of a good publications. A good number of candidates did not read and process the scenario to establish the problem which they were required to solve. Now, advice to teachers in item 1 for the start. Expose learners to more scenario-based items. Advice to teachers on item 2. Teachers need to introduce the learners to a variety of desktop publishing applications such as InDesign, Canvas, Adobe Illustrator, etc. So that is the advice to teachers when they are handling desktop publishing as a theme, as a topic, while designing and producing publications. So now, that was the overview of the last year's ICT paper for UCE 2024. Please keep following me on my YouTube channel and continue subscribing. Let others know what is happening and share the knowledge. Together, we shall fight against computer illiteracy. God bless.